Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. The following interview is designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be. Your host, Derek Champagne, is the founder and CEO of The Artist Evolution, a full-service agency building successful brands, marketing tools, and campaigns, and also the author of the best-selling book, Don't Buy a Duck. And now, let's begin today's Leadership Series interview.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Series, where our goal is to inspire you to become the best leader that you can be. Today, I have Lisa Binderow on the show with us. She's the founder and CEO of NicePipes. She's been featured on Shark Tank and so many other features that she's had. Lisa, welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited. I love your journey. I love the entrepreneurial journey, especially when things happen the way they have for you. And so let's kind of go back to the beginning. I know you've told your story so many times, but take us back. You've got this awesome company, and I love some things that you've done along the way that we'll get into, but take me back as to your inspiration, your background, and then how you started the company that you have today.
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my first job out of college was working in production, I was interested in working in production. I worked for Miramax, and then I worked for a director. So I sort of learned the mentality of how to get things done no matter what there. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I kind of just got burnt out, as anyone who works in film, anyone who has worked in film in the past would understand. Right. And I started taking yoga classes at the local yoga studio in Santa Monica in California. And I really fell in love with yoga and found it to be a great outlet. And when I decided to change careers, I took a part-time job at the yoga studio just to hold me over until I figured out what was next. I was in my mid-20s. And I just loved being there. And a job opened up in operations in the corporate office because it was a bigger yoga company. It wasn't like a one-off studio. And that company was called YogaWorks. And I ended up working for YogaWorks for about 7 or 8 years in operations. And also I did my teacher certification.
Very cool. So from there, tell me a little bit about your journey. Are you in New York today? Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm in New York today. I lived out in California for about 7 or 8 years. And then I moved here to work for YogaWorks. I took over a job as teacher director, managing our staff and all of our programming for the Northeast. Very cool.
How do you like New York over California?
I miss California so much. I'm actually from Atlanta originally. I hear your Southern accent. I don't know where you're from.
Yes, I'll be in Atlanta next month. But
really?
I'm in Northwest Arkansas now.
So. Okay. So I loved living in Santa Monica. I miss it so much. New York, the weather just turned and the weather got better, and everyone in the city is becomes nicer. Yes. It's a wonderful, amazing city. It's such a cool place to live. It's just that it's very intense. It's very intense.
Yes, it is. And if you were in the film industry, my wife was in California. That's where I met her, and I was in the music industry. And that lifestyle at some point was rather exhausting.
Totally.
And so I understand that the search for yoga as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that was so cool because I worked for a yoga company in Southern California. And listen, it was stressful. All jobs have elements of stress, but it was a great opportunity to dive into the wellness world in a more business focused way, and not because sometimes in the wellness world you can find yourself floating out into space a little too much. So it was really cool, and I learned a lot working in operations there, and it was a really nice education for me after kind of working my butt off in production.
Right. So tell me about, when was a moment where you had an idea that propelled the business you have today?
So when I moved to New York, I was running around to all the studios. I was teaching, and I was also recruiting teachers for our teaching staff. And all of my apparel, like activewear, which is now like a huge industry, activewear, like Lululemon. This was, this was before Lululemon. I was running around the city in like cropped yoga pants and tank tops because I had all my clothes from Santa Monica and I was freezing cold all the time. And then like the snow had started and I kind of didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to go and buy all new long pants. So I went on search for leg warmers, and all I could find were acrylic knit, like sweater material, old school leg warmers that weren't updated like all the other activewear was starting to become. I mean, there's been such amazing fabric improvements, and it just hadn't been applied to this accessory. So I made a pair for personal use for me to wear to and from the studios, and other teachers and students all just wanted their own pair of pipes, and that's how NicePipes started. And the first year I only made like, when you live in New York City, you're lucky you have access to so much manufacturing and like, there's such a huge possibility to create whatever you want to create because there's so much, there's so many resources here.
You've got manufacturing resources at your fingertips
at our
pretty
fingertips.
readily.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like I was in the middle of nowhere. So I went to the garment center, bought the fabric, and had like 1,000 pairs made, and literally just started selling them out of my apartment. And that's how I started NicePipes.
That's so cool. So I always like to ask for businesses like yours, but when did you realize, when was that aha moment of, I think I'm onto something bigger here? This is not just supplemental. This is more than just people liking my style or something I came up with. This is something that's pretty legit that I need to pursue on a bigger level.
So I was a friend of mine who helped me through the process of how to create a sample and what like different stitching is. She has a beautiful bra company called Top Secret Society, and she kind of held my hand and walked me through the production process of creating clothes. And she knew the buyer at Equinox, so she connected me to them. And it's so competitive. She was like, "Listen, I'm going to connect you, but like they'll probably just let you do trunk shows. If that, like, don't get excited, but you never know. You never know."
Right.
And I emailed them, and they loved it, and they picked it up for 13 stores. And it was literally my husband and I like boxing them in my kitchen, and then he drove me around to each like location in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, and I would drop them off. They thought I was like the courier, and I was like fully like the one and only employee besides my husband who was like helping me and dropping off these boxes of leg warmers.
That's all. My wife's been dragged into some of my ventures enthusiastically most of the time, and I couldn't have done it without her. But I can think back to some days of making deliveries for some things. So that's really cool. So you started doing that, and then how did it keep going from there?
So then from there, I realized like, wow, this could be a real business. And we built a website and started selling online. And I started doing trunk shows just at every yoga studio or gym that would take me. I started doing trunk shows all around the city. And my family actually now lives in Philadelphia. So I did some there. And my friends who had moved out to the suburbs, I did it in their suburb. Anywhere I could go, I would go. And for me, it felt very organic because I had been in the fitness industry for 8 years. So like I knew so many teachers I could give product to, and they were like happy to wear it and happy to help me promote it. And, in the age of social media, like that made a big difference.
Right.
And it was all from my own community and my own connections and people, and honestly wearing the product and people loving the product. It just, and I never in a million years planned to like grow some massive business. It was just like, okay, every day was like, how can we get more of these out there? How do we get people? And also like conferences and trade shows and things like that. So that was like the other piece of it. So
that's so cool. And you know what I love about this too is sometimes I'll go back and I'm going to ask you the same thing, but I like to ask business owners and entrepreneurs along their journey what are they most proud of in those early days. So I'll ask you that first. Tell me what did you enjoy the most during those times before you scaled and were growing? What did you enjoy back then?
It's funny. It's actually the same thing I enjoy now. What's really interesting about the product is that like it doesn't always translate when you just see it on like lying there. You don't get it right away. Okay. And then when people put them on, so when I would sell them at like Yoga Journal conference in New York or San Francisco, there's these big Yoga Journal conferences, and I would be wearing one on one leg and then not on the other leg, so you could see my cropped pants where it was open from like my shin to my shoe. Okay. And people would touch the fabric and look at me and have this like aha moment of like, oh my God, this is going to solve all my problems when I do X, when I go running, when I cycle, when I go to yoga, like whatever the physical activity was, and same with our arm warmers. Like when I'm hiking, when I do this, and that moment when people understand the product in a way, like as a problem solver for them, to me, that's the best moment. And I still feel that way.
That's so cool. So you stay heavily involved in the process along the way. Are you still doing trunk shows?
Not as much. Like now it's become a function of how can we make that moment happen online.
Right.
So we're constantly creating like all these different videos and like how to use your pipes and getting creating content for social media, people like doing different stuff in their pipes, because that's really how we connect to a mass audience.
Yeah.
We still do some events, but not as many.
What do you say to those that, I know in your industry, trunk shows are important, but what do you say to those when you start talking about hustling, going from, you didn't say you were hustling, but from going from place to place and anywhere you could? I mean, that's what it is. And what do you say to those that say, that style of outreach is worn out or it's overused? How important was that for you to even get your product seen and tried?
I think it's so important more because of the feedback that you get, right? Like,
right.
You have to be the type of person who likes talking to people. I think that the tough thing with social media is that you're always trying, like, you can see how many likes it gets, yes, or like if people comment, yes, but that's not the same thing. My father-in-law always talks about how crazy it is that people buy things online without touching them or seeing them, especially like furniture. He's like, I just don't get how people are just buying everything online. He's still old school and he buys everything in the shop. And that's because he wants to touch it. He wants to feel it. He wants to understand the product. And that customer experience, you can only get that through a conference or a trade show or a trunk show. And you only really get to know your wins and your potential losses by doing that.
Right. You want to be careful not to lose touch with that of your basically your outreach that you're and some of your research. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more about how powerful then has social media and the video component been for you though, and your ability to scale as far as reaching bigger audiences that can't physically touch it.
I think it's been very helpful. I think it's very challenging. I think for me, it comes much more naturally to sell in person and to talk to customers in person than it does to try to like break through all the noise. I mean, the reality is that social media is so saturated right now that you're like constantly trying to break through the noise. And you don't know when the connection's made. Like for me, in my experience, like at least at the trunk shows, like when the connection was made, it was like you felt really good. I felt really good after like, oh, this person loves the product. They're so excited. They bought 3 pairs and a pair for a friend. And like, I know they're going to have this great experience with it. Whereas now with social media, like you're kind of just putting yourself out there and you hope that your orders go up. But there's so many, when people buy online now, there's so many touch points before they buy.
Right.
They see it in Instagram, and then they see it in a Facebook ad, and then their friend has it, and then it's in a blog, and then they buy. So like you don't really know what sent them there. So it's harder to measure, I guess. Yeah,
that's a great point. And something very organic and at the simplest level. And I have the same thing as a founder and CEO of my company is whenever I interact with the customer for our type of sale, I know they get it. They get my story. They get the whole thing. And I sometimes we've scaled a little slower than we've liked, but even in our scale model, I sometimes get concerned about them not getting the whole idea of the brand, and how do we not lose that as we scale out and not water down the product through all those touch points, because that's a part of our story. And even bigger than that, it's one of the more satisfying selfishly parts for me as a founder, that they get that whole experience.
Totally. And that they have a good experience. Like, when we've had like massive exposure, we have a lot of sales, and I'm very proud to say that our returns are like 2%. I mean, it's like something crazy, awesome. But awesome. It's always because the person didn't understand the product. That's always why. It's never because they didn't like it. It's always because they're like, I thought it was something else. And I think like, I don't know. I have said it to many friends, and I'll say it here. Like, I would be so happy living, like if I was in the time of living in a small town and having a small shop on Main Street and selling NicePipes there, rather than this, in order to survive as a business, this like need for massive growth just to survive.
Right. And most of our businesses have gotten that way. Mine definitely is. It's either we grow or we shrink. And we're always in that hustle mode of growth. And I enjoy some of that, but something that stood out to me that I have underlined here in our research, which I thought was really cool, and I wanted to touch on for a minute. You talked at one point about your father-in-law having his dental practice and carving out a good niche, thriving business, and life's great and support his family. And where's his hashtag of hashtag mom and pop shop? And tell me a little bit about that, because that stood out to me. Why isn't it enough anymore for us to carve out a good niche for our family and just be satisfied and enjoy that? I'm the same way, but just touch on that a little bit more for me.
Well, I've experienced it so much living in New York City and working at a WeWork, which I don't know if you're familiar with WeWork, but it's like, so co-working spaces and all these companies being bought at all these crazy valuations, and like there's hashtag female founder, and then there's all these like networking events, and it's very intense. And for me, it's more than I want for me, because for me, I want balance, and I don't, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't work for other people. Other people get energized by those types of things. I get depleted. Like I'm very much an introvert, and I prefer to be interacting with people one-on-one. You know, at a conference, I'm still interacting with customers one-on-one, but I think, I don't know where it came from. I don't know why I think because actually a lot of it is because of social media and how everybody knows everything that's going on with you all the time, or that's going on with your business all the time.
Right.
And it's just caused everything to have to be on a much grander scale. Like, people are really interested in seeing on Facebook all the things that are happening with your company, which means that there has to be constantly be things happening with your company,
right?
For you to post about, you know.
Well, yeah, and obviously I'm doing this podcast because I love thought leadership, and I'm hungry to learn from people like you. But so we build marketing campaigns for companies, and we always have a big thought leadership category for them, because they have to just keep generating content as much as they can so that they stay interesting and stay top of mind and stay the expert. And once in a while, it would be nice to take a deep breath and say, you know what, and look around and say, who am I doing all of this for, and how satisfied am I, and what balance do I have? And so I love that you brought that out. It was really cool. I've got it all underlined here, and again, I love learning from experts like you. So tell me, while we're on that category, how do you find balance? You talk as a yoga teacher and as a student, you talk about finding balance, and that's one of your missions if you practice that. So how do you do that?
I think it's finding ways. Well, I think there are two different ways. One is actually like knowing when to shut down, and giving yourself permission to say, like, I'm not going to go to this event, and I'm going to go home and like cook myself dinner and read a book or watch TV or take a bath or do whatever it is you need to do. And not like make yourself feel that every event or every meeting or every lunch is going to be the answer, you know, like is going to catapult you into success. Like kind of giving yourself a break and knowing that like it's just as important that you take care of yourself as it is to take care of your business. But I also have found that it's a matter of figuring out which activities are surrounding your business you actually enjoy. So like that's what's so interesting to me about podcasts. Like I hate going to a networking event, but I love doing podcasts because it's an intimate conversation between me and you.
Right.
And I don't feel depleted after our interview because I'm having a really great conversation with you. Yes, a lot of people will hear it afterwards, and that's great. And then you touch a lot of people and you connect with a lot of people. But I feel like finding those things and finding a way to use what works for you to work for the business. You know, some days that means that's like me working from home. Like I just need that, you know? And I think if you can find those and you can incorporate those into your routine, then you don't feel like, oh my God, where's my balance? Because it's already it's already incorporated into your habits.
That's really great advice. I appreciate that. I think a lot of us have the FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Yes.
And social media does not help.
No.
So a couple of questions. One is, what's your balance with your technology? Are you able to just shut it down so that you don't have that fear of missing out and you don't have to keep up with everybody and everything is going on? Or what do you do, or how do you tell someone that's over plugged in, what do they need to do, or what steps should they take?
I think it's hard. Like I one of the things I realized early on is like, I hate doing the social media. I hired someone to do it for NicePipes because I didn't want to do it. And that took a lot of stress off me. When I started, I was doing all the Instagramming, and I just it was like every day I was like, oh, I have to post again. Right. And now, and I also know that I probably should do it more for myself because people do look at my account also. But I honestly, that's my advice. Like, if you don't like it and you don't enjoy it, don't do it.
Right.
Either find someone else to do it for your business, or if you can, and there people are ready, willing, and able to help you with social media. There's, you can hire a college student who wants to learn about business, and you can teach them about what you're doing, and in exchange have them help you with posting. Right. Because to them it's like second nature.
Right.
So I think my advice is, if you don't like it, don't do it. But if you enjoy it and you like it, then, like I said before, like, if that doesn't feel like it sucks energy from you, then take advantage of that and maximize that.
So thank you so much. Great advice. So we're going to talk about Shark Tank for just a minute. But you were on Shark Tank
Yes.
and you got an offer. First of all, that you got a call back and that you went through the whole process. And we've interviewed many people that have talked to us in detail about the process and how hard it is to get on and how much time you spend preparing and practicing. So we don't have to go into all that because I know that you did the same thing. But then you got an offer from Barbara, and that's amazing. And then you said no. And that story is so cool to me. And even the reason, take me through, share anything you want about your experience, but I really want to hear as the decision you made at that time. And it kind of goes along with your whole philosophy on how you're living your life and you're building your company around what works for you.
Yeah. So I never had watched the show. So a lot of friends and family had said to me, and customers and people and teachers, like, oh, you should go on Shark Tank. And in a day, like an afternoon, I was procrastinating and went online and submitted an application. And then I didn't want to answer emails, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do the Shark Tank application instead. So and then each step of the way, and as you said, it's a long process. I was like, this is never going to happen. This is never going to happen. Even the day we shot it, I was like, this is never going to air, But in my mind, at that point in my business, I was like, wow, wouldn't it be so cool to have a mentor like Lori or Barbara? That's really who I wanted to work with. Yeah. To say, what do I do next? I have this business. I don't have a business background. I have an operations background, but I don't know how to scale it. And I don't even know how to begin to do that. So how cool would it be to work with them and I thought maybe it would take the pressure off me a little, just to not be the one in charge all the time. That's kind of what I thought was going to be this amazing saving grace, was to have one of them come in and help me figure out what to do next, so that I didn't feel so what am I doing? Sure. And I was totally getting caught up in this growth, and we need to keep getting bigger. We need to sell more. We need to keep growing. Right. And then when I went and did it, and I did my pitch, and the thing that I was most fearful of is that I wouldn't be able to perform that day. I had such self-doubt, and I was so scared that I was going to crumble under the pressure. Wow. I just really was petrified. And like I said, I'm not an extroverted person. Teaching yoga, every class I ever taught, I was always nervous. So I really was pretty freaked out. And then when I went out there and I did my pitch, stuck my pitch, I stood up for myself. And in the process of defending myself and defending my business, I started to believe what I was saying. And I really believed in myself. I almost convinced myself better than I convinced them. And what I realized was this was not gonna. What I really needed was that. What I really needed was to believe in myself and to trust that I knew what was best for my business. and that by giving Barbara 40%, I was just going to go kind of take a back seat and end up working for her.
Right.
And what was the point of that when I just proved to myself that like I've turned myself into a leader. I've turned myself into a business owner. It was an amazing experience. I walked out of there. I said to my producer, like, the producers are some of the nicest people ever, and they're totally rooting for you. I said to her, like, I will wake up and I will look at myself differently forever.
Wow.
Because I was able to get through that. And like, that's what I got from it. The money and the giving away the equity, like all of that became so unimportant to me so quickly.
That's amazing. So, I mean, that was actually a big moment for you personally, that transformation. I talked to one other person that said it was a transformation for them in their life when they came out of that. That's really huge. So, I mean, I'm sure, what kind of fallout did you have, or what kind of Shark Tank effect did you have coming out when it did air?
Yeah. So I shot it last summer, and I like left out, and like my husband was like waiting in a car for me off the lot. And he said the show should really be that they follow the husband around, because he was like having a panic attack that I was like, because he couldn't talk to me, and I was gone for like 7 hours.
Right.
And I came out and I said to him, he's like, how'd you do? And I said, I'm really proud of how I did. I don't know how they're going to cut it. I don't know how they're going to show it, but I'm really proud of how I did it. And we both like started crying.
Wow.
And then we like went out and celebrated. And then like all these months went by, and I kind of just didn't even think about it. Like I was like, well, maybe it'll air, maybe it won't air. So then finally, that was in June. So in December, I get an email saying it'll air in January.
Wow.
And I had made a whole list of, here are the levers that I have to pull once I get an air date list.
Right.
And I had everything ready to go. I'm a very organized, detail-oriented person. I had everything ready to go. I like hit go. I hit the red button. And we got hundreds of thousands of visitors to the website. So many orders, our orders were up 10 times in January compared to last January.
Wow. How fun was that, like during that time? Because I'm someone that likes to plant and then enjoy the harvest too.
Yes.
Were you refreshing and watching the numbers and what were
Yes. It was so fun. And, I was really like, I wasn't going to have a viewing party. And then I ended up connecting with a bunch of other entrepreneurs that were on the show. And they were like, you'll regret it if you don't have a viewing party. And so I ended up inviting all my friends and family. We all watched together. And it was like we were watching like a football game. Like everyone was like cheering. And then they were like booing when the guys were mean to me. And it was like so fun. And it was great. It was amazing. And it was an amazing experience. The business did so well. And I also was, and I am now, at that point, I was 5 months pregnant.
Wow.
So I also had this like amazing perspective of like, what's the word? Like, I think the show can be so intense, and the fallout or what happens after it airs can be so intense. But I felt like, just going back on touching on like finding balance, I felt super grounded because I was like 5 months pregnant. I was like, if the website crashes, it crashes. Like the most important thing is that like I'm healthy and this baby is healthy. Right. And it totally gave me this feeling of I'm going to enjoy every minute of this, and I'm not going to let it stress me out, because it's like, I don't know, I had like my priorities had shifted. It was very cool.
That's cool. Yeah. You saw where it fit in your life and the importance and how important it was or wasn't.
Yeah. Like it was super important, but it like no longer became the most important thing. And it took a lot of the pressure off, because when you're going to air, it's a lot of pressure, like a lot.
That's so how old is your little one?
So I'm actually due in 5. Yeah, I'm due in 5 weeks.
Oh, so. Congratulations. I'm excited for you. That's and your first one. That's so cool.
It's my first, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. My daughter turns 8 this month, and my son turns 6 in July. And
oh, wow.
They are just amazing joys in my life. So I'm excited for you to have that experience. So cool. And
I'm sure you must like come home from like a crazy day at work, and it's like your kids run up to you and you just like, it just changes the way you like it's just, I think that it makes it easier to let the stress of work go.
Yes. So today my son at his school, he had his Easter egg hunt, and the little things he's 5. And so I left work, a busy day, and left for a little while. My world's hectic, and his is quiet.
Yeah.
The most important thing in this world, he just wants to sit next to me, put his arm on me, and just talk. And a bug is cool. An Easter egg is cool. And the little things, they really just know how to enjoy the things that we should appreciate. And sometimes we lose appreciating a long time ago. And so having a kid for me has made me appreciate those little things again. And which is so cool because life's crazy. And simple things there's so many profound things that are simple to us now, but to a kid to get to re-explain it and share it, I hadn't thought about that. A butterfly is pretty cool. It's really cool. Yeah. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Just a couple other questions for you. Well, I mean, you've 5 weeks, you got a little one coming, but what are some things that you've yet to accomplish that are kind of on your bucket list or that you've got out there that you're looking at?
So there are some major changes that I want to make to NicePipes. I probably would start working on them now if I wasn't about to have a baby because, the theme of our podcast, the balance, whenever you want to start something new with your company, you want to make sure that you can dedicate yourself wholly to it. And I just don't think that's realistic over the next 3 months. But there are some stuff I want to do in the fall, including new variations of the pipes, maybe some new products. But the biggest thing is I want to change the model of our business to be similar to Tom's shoes. Are you familiar with
Absolutely.
The 1-for-1, because it's just, I love NicePipes and I love selling leg warmers, but I need more to feel like it's, and we do donations and we do support a couple different charities, but I need it to be more, especially if I'm going to be leaving my kid, to do it. Yeah. And so that's my next big thing is I want to change our model to be kind of like the 1-for-1, and it will take a lot of strategy on my end and redesign of the website and all that comes along with sort of shifting focus.
Yeah, but that's so cool that you want to do that. I love that. That seems like the right next step. And you build a lifestyle brand, you have an opportunity to build a legacy brand that's just helps so many people and impacts so many more than just changing their life with the product itself.
Right, exactly. And then it's you leave your kid at home to go to work and you can say okay, and I'm sure this is sort of how you feel with this podcast and getting information out to people. There just needs to be more than selling a product. I need a little more than that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I tell my team and others around me, we're here in Northwest Arkansas, we want to make a ripple that's felt around the country, maybe not even about our product or service, but about interacting with us or about how we can help others. And when you get to that point with your company where you're able to do that, even if you didn't start at day one, and we didn't. And so we've been in that similar transformation. So that's really cool. And the intentionality of that is going to be really rewarding for you. Any other entrepreneurial advice you want to give? There's someone out there a couple things I love about what you did. Lots of people can be innovative or think, I don't like the current state of my clothing or those things, but they don't always find a way to fix it. And then someone might say, I like that. And they might say, that's great. I made it, and then be done with it. You went on and you started making it for more people. You've done really cool things. Most people don't make it on Shark Tank. You're doing amazing things. What advice do you have those who've been on the fence that maybe aren't completely happy in what they're doing and are looking for something that they're passionate about?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, I think the best advice I could offer is for someone who hasn't done it yet, I would say become very clear on what you want to do, what your goals are, and build a step-by-step process of how you're going to get there. I think creating a linear pathway is so important for a lot of people who want to do something that they're passionate about, so that you don't get lost in air, lost in space. And then for people who are already doing it, it's very similar. Figure out what your goals are, figure out what makes you happy on a day-to-day basis, and create the life that's right for you. Don't create a life that's just going to make you unhappy and stressed just so you can sell a lot of widgets or whatever.
Yeah, that's great advice. Anything else you want to share?
No, that's it. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so happy I could be on the show with you.
Honored to have you. So honored. Thank you for sharing your advice. It's great. So NicePipesApparel.com if you check out your product. I want to invite our listeners to do that. We have this podcast, and then this re-airs on our ESPN radio show as well. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you being our guest, Lisa Binderow, and we look forward to congratulations on your little one and to all your success, and we look forward to keeping an eye on the other things that you have going out there in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks again for having me.
You've been listening to the Business Leadership Series, where we engage with leaders who are making an impact on their worlds and who want to share their knowledge and experience for your personal and professional growth. This interview was designed to inspire you to become the best leader you can be.